It is a product of my cold, dead hands. The year 2002 marked Charlton Heston's last public appearance. This was going to be the most intimate dispute that the Oscar winner and Red Sea separated guy would ever address in public. As soon as he began speaking, his remarks would break the hearts of Americans everywhere, from civil rights marches to Hollywood epics. Until then, Heston's life had been nothing short of spectacular. But it would be his last words that reveal his character's real color. Charlton Heston came into this planet on October 4, 1923. His birthplace is disputed. Some say Evanston, Illinois, but he insists it was always no man's land, a bordering area that eventually became Wilmette. There was still some room for interpretation, even in his name. Though he was officially recorded as John Charles Carter, rumors have it that he was listed as Charlton Carter just after he was born. The fact that he came from a mixed Scottish and English family with ties to the infamous Clan Fraser was well known. His parents, Russell Carter and Lilla Baines, did not live a lavish lifestyle. Russell worked as a sawmill employee during a time when there was a severe lack of funds. While Charlton was a little child, his family moved from the busy Chicago suburbs to a little rural town in Michigan called St. Helen. This was in stark contrast to city life. Charlton went to a one-room school where there were only 13 other pupils. He remained solitary for long periods of time due to the fact that he was the sole student in his class. Being alone for so long forced him to rely on his imagination to fill in the gaps left by his lack of friends. He devoted many hours to hunting, fishing, and enjoying nature because of his deep love for the outdoors. He grew up with a profound respect for nature and a strong sense of independence thanks to this simple and tranquil lifestyle. On the 10th birthday of Charlton in 1933, the separation of his parents was finalized. His mother and siblings were the ones that returned him to Illinois. Chester Heston was the man she married a few years down the road. The change in Charlton's reputation started about this time. Charlton quickly began using the Heston surname, which his mother had eventually taken after her new spouse. He chose to use the name Charlton in his career because he loved it so much. His grandma's side of the family is where the name Charlton came from. Chuck, a nickname derived from his given name Charles, persisted among his family and friends despite this. Charlton attended New Trier High School in Winnetka, Illinois, where he found his acting interest. For a while he thought acting could help him escape the tough parts of his life. He said it gave him a sense of freedom since it let him become someone else. He participated enthusiastically in school productions, including Peer Gynt, in which he excelled. Because of his infectious energy, his teachers encouraged him to keep going. The fact that acting was Charlton's favorite pastime was much more noticeable than his football playing. Everyone was gushing about his growing talent even before he received his graduation. Charlton attended Northwestern University on a full scholarship to pursue acting in 1941. He saw it as a major milestone. A great deal of his time was spent honing his craft, performing in plays, and improving his skills. You couldn't say that the plays were just drills. Due to their adequate degree of professionalism, they garnered attention from Chicago's theater scene. At the same time, the world was experiencing changes due to World War II, which helped set a somber tone on campus. Although this was the direction he wanted his life to go, Charlton kept his focus on performing. A fortuitous meeting in a Northwestern University theater class in 1941 set the stage for Charlton Heston's romantic and, later, military adventures. He worked as an elevator operator at night when he was 17 years old to help pay for college, which he was receiving on a scholarship. The stunning dark locks and expressive eyes of Lydia, a fellow acting student, were quite captivating. Even though he was exhausted from his work, Lydia continued to capture his attention. Their first meeting wasn't very memorable. In Lydia's view, Charlton exhibited a sense of superiority and vanity. However, when she approached him for acting advice, that set something ablaze. Lydia was not an easy person to win over, but Charlton persisted in pursuing her for 3 years. At a time when the chaos of World War II was looming, her ambition made her unwilling to settle for the role of a sidekick. After considerable time had elapsed, the wedding finally took place on March 17th, 1944 in Greensboro, North Carolina. There were only 2 hours to spare before the ceremony, which took place in a church. There was little ceremony, and it was quick. The $50 she spent on her purple outfit and flowery hat was a substantial sum for her at that time. 2 years later, she made $10 by selling the outfit, hat, and bag to buy Charlton a Christmas present. But that was back when things were tough. Below you will find a description of the sacrifices they made for each other. At 20 years of age, Charlton enlisted in the military and was soon assigned the duties of a gunner and radio operator aboard a B-25 bomber. As a military installation, he was stationed in the distant and hostile Aleutian Islands. Danger lurked at every turn of his work. During the missions, he oversaw the aircraft's weapon systems and made sure that communication links were open in case of an assault. While flying combat missions over northern Japan, he often had to deal with bad weather and low visibility. It might all come to a halt with just one slip-up. He was harmed on base and was run over by an ambulance after falling on ice. Because of this, he hurt himself. Because of this, he had to use a wheelchair for a while, but that didn't stop him from wanting to fight. He had anticipated being an integral part of the victorious invasion of Japan, but, alas, it was not to be. Charlton later admitted that he was grateful for the 1,945 atomic bombs that ended the war. Probably it saved his life. Charlton and Lydia moved to New York when the war ended so they could follow their acting dreams. The task was not easy. Their squalid flat was located in a sketchy area, and their monthly rent was a pitiful $30. They had to boil water on the stove to make it hot enough to bathe in since there was no running water. They took up modeling jobs for painters and posed for students to make ends meet. Having enough to eat was often a problem for them. On rare occasions, Charlton found employment, but Lydia did not. Even though there were moments when things didn't go their way, they stuck together and laughed through every difficulty. The 1947 Broadway production of Antony and Cleopatra had Charlton in a supporting role. A time of markedly improved conditions began at this point. Completely insignificant job. With Godfrey Tyrrell and Katharine Cornell in the lead parts, the play was a smashing success. He played the role of Proculius, a small character in the play, but his performance was monumental. It was a positive development in Charlton's opinion. He learned a lot by performing on stage alongside players who had more expertise than him. Also, he had the confidence to move on because of it. The Hestons were able to find some stability after years of struggle because to the show, which ran for several months. In 1950, at the age of 26, Charlton Heston made his big Hollywood debut in the film noir Dark City. The fact that Montgomery Clift, the original casting choice, chose to step down from the role a few days before filming started was a fortuitous accident. The role played by Heston. The transition into the world of professional filmmaking is happening quite quickly for me. Having said that, there was undoubtedly some hiccup with the production. Major scenes had to be reworked when the budget was cut by 20% midway through filming. Hard work came easily to Heston since he was determined to prove his worth. Even giving up his trailer and staying up late to work out fresh lines wasn't enough for him. Seasoned performers like Elizabeth Scott and Vivica Lindfors took notice of his steadfast dedication and ended up guiding him through the photography process. The physical toll it took on him is one of the most noteworthy parts of his debut effort. Heston was adamant on doing all of the stunts himself during a crucial fight scene. He paid a heavy price for his decision. He kept quiet about his injuries, a dislocated shoulder and 2 broken ribs, to keep things moving along as smoothly as possible. You could see the pain in several close-ups, which added reality to his performance. Despite the presence of challenges, Dark City made $2,100,000 at the box office, making it a commercial success for its day. It was also the picture that launched Charlton onto the Hollywood stardom ladder. The Greatest Show on Earth, directed by Cecil B. DeMille and starring Heston, shot his career into the stratosphere 2 years later. The unconventional casting process for the role was as unconventional as the film itself. After seeing Heston courageously handle a circus elephant in a screen test, DeMille gave him the lead role of Brad Braden, in charge of the traveling circus. The filming of the picture involved more than 1,400 people, an endless amount of animals, and 85 trainloads of equipment. For 3 months, Heston lived and worked among circus artists and staff from the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circuses respectively to prepare himself for his role. He faced genuine dangers. He was dangling from a trapeze 40 feet above the ground after an accident involving a freed lion. With over $66 million globally and the Best Picture Oscar in the bag, the film was a smashing success. His reputation as a leading man was further cemented by the critical praise he garnered for his role in the picture. He was physically drained after the 10-month arduous shoot and briefly confined to the hospital for dehydration. Reflecting on the past, Heston claims that his meteoric rise to stardom and the foundation for his subsequent renowned roles were set by the film The Greatest Show on Earth. A defining feature of Heston's career became his connection with Cecil B. DeMille. Many performers felt that DeMille was an extremely tough teacher who would test them to their physical and mental limitations. It is widely known that on the production of The Greatest Show on Earth, he had Charlton rehearse a scene 47 times in one day. Despite the weariness, the two of them grew closer because, to this hard method, the actor was greatly influenced by DeMille, who believed in Heston's abilities and was important in his growth as an actor. On top of that, he was Heston's go-to nutrition and exercise expert. He famously recommended a bowl of raw eggs, wheat germ, and brewer's yeast to Heston every day to keep him vibrant. When the 10 Commandments was published in 1956, their collaboration reached its zenith. It may have been a gamble to cast Heston as Moses, given his lack of training in biblical epics. During the pre-production phase, DeMille had Heston spend 6 weeks in the Sinai Desert. During this period, he studied ancient Hebrew and learned how to cut stone tablets. The film's production budget of $13 million made it the priciest film of its time. Heston poured his heart and soul into the role. For 3 months, he grew his own hair and beard, choosing not to use synthetics so that it would look natural. Because a camera fault ruined the original take of the iconic moment in which Moses parting the Red Sea, it was shot twice. It took almost 3,600,000 gallons of water and a whole year to perfect on the second try. While filming in Egypt, Heston narrowly avoided being crushed by a 1,000-pound stone prop. Just inches separated them, totaling $122,700,000. The picture was a huge financial success, which would be almost $1,200,000,000 in today's money. Lots of people were so impressed by his performance that they assumed he was supposed to play Moses. Another picture that broke records upon its premiere in 1959 was Ben-Hur. It had Heston's appearance. The film's nearly year-long development included contributions from more than 500 individuals. Heston spent 15 weeks learning how to drive a chariot and lost weight to prepare for the role. Shot over the period of 10 weeks, the incredibly dangerous chariot racing scene is widely regarded as one of the most iconic in film history. Heston performed his feats, and in one he was nearly crushed by horses after being pushed from his chariot. A dislocated jaw and injured ligaments weren't enough to stop him from competing. Although it had been kept hidden for a while, the news that a stuntman had died while filming was eventually exposed. 11 Oscars were bestowed upon the picture, a record at the time, including Best Picture and Best Actor for Charlton Heston. It made almost $1,400,000,000 at the box office, with a total of $146,900,000. Even President John F. Kennedy mentioned the movie in a speech he gave about civil rights. After being so satisfied with his role in the picture, Heston decided to give all of his earnings to a good cause. He said the experience was worth more than the money he got. In addition to being commercial successes, Heston's films also pioneered new genres. Both Ben-Hur and The Ten Commandments relied on tens of thousands of animals, extras, and costumes to successfully bring their epic stories to life. It was more expensive than most movies at the time spent on their whole production, costing $4 million just for the chariot race in Ben-Hur. The film, The Agony and the Ecstasy, from 1964, Heston, in order to prepare for his part as Michelangelo, studied art and sculpture. They even spent 18 months making an exact replica of the Sistine Chapel for the film. In 1961 El Cid, he oversaw extensive war sequences using more than 1,000 animals and 7,000 people.